September 11, 2001. It will forever be remembered in the minds of Americans as well as millions of other people around the world. Being the most devastating act of assault on the U.S. since the Civil War, the U.S. vowed to strike back against the insinuators of these deplorable acts. Mastermind Osama bin Laden and his al-Qaeda followers. The beginning. But where did terrorism in America begin? It goes all the way back to 1993 when Muslim extremists bombed underneath the World Trade Center. It killed 6 people and injured more than 1,000 others. Other attacks that led up to 9/11, which were also traced back to Osama bin Laden, include the bombings of at least 3 U.S. embassies in Nairobi, Kenya, and Tanzania. Bin Laden had also been suspected of masterminding the 1995 and 96 bombings of U.S. military facilities in Saudi Arabia. It is observed that radical Muslims or Islamic fundamentalists, terrorists, hate the U.S. for its support of Israel and the U.S. cultural influence on their world. 9/11. By now, most if not all of you know what happened on that September morning, so I won't go on and on with the details. If you don't know what happened, well, I'd seriously recommend checking out this book. Anyway, 4 planes were hijacked. Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center, followed by Flight 175 crashing into the South Tower 17 minutes later. 35 minutes after Flight 175 hit the South Tower, Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon, followed by the collapse of the South Tower 21 minutes later.
How can you see into my eyes like open doors?
11 minutes later, Flight 93 crashes in Pennsylvania. And finally, the North Tower collapses 18 minutes after the crash of Flight 93.
Leading you down into my core, where I become so numb. Feel the soul, my spirit sleeping somewhere cold.
Government response. Immediately, national leaders promised a forceful response against the attackers. 9 days after the attack, in a nationwide televised address to Congress, Bush demanded the Taliban to give up bin Laden and his followers. This retaliation against al-Qaeda and the Taliban was believed to be only the beginning in a now worldwide effort to put a stop to international terrorism altogether.
Our war on terror begins with al-Qaeda, but it does not end there. It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated.
Steps were also being taken to improve intelligence and defense systems because of the possibility of future attacks with chemical or biological weapons. The creation of the new Department of Homeland Security was one of the steps being taken. Alliances. In order to gather more intelligence, the U.S. would be forced to depend on the help from surrounding countries, particularly Pakistan. Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf agreed to full cooperation with the U.S. government. This full cooperation included sealing the border, making Pakistani land and airspace available, as well as exchanging of intelligence information with American officials. Still, the many Pakistani citizens who supported bin Laden and the Taliban put pressure on Musharraf's decision. Economic help and response. Right away, the U.S. began using its economic strength. U.S. financial institutions were ordered to freeze the assets of groups or people suspected of being involved with the terrorist attacks. Major effects rose from the September 11th attacks, with its shock causing global stock markets to drop sharply. Travel and entertainment stocks fell, while communications, medical, and military defense stocks rose. Social response. There was strong public support for an assault against Afghanistan. However, with the support came the opposition. Passed on October 12, 2001, the Patriot Act widened the powers of federal law enforcement and intelligence agencies to investigate terrorism. This included wiretapping and records from libraries, businesses, and bookstores. Many civil liberty advocates were worried what this act would do to their privacy rights. To calm things down, the American Civil Liberties Union vowed to work with the Bush administration to ensure civil liberties were not affected. More opposition was given to the TSA pat-downs. Pat-downs are for safety issues, but many citizens feel it is too invasive, and some go as far as saying it is unconstitutional. The conspiracy. A rather controversial response by some American citizens is that the belief that 9/11 was all the government's doing. Some of the most popular theories heard are that the collapse of the World Trade Center was from controlled demolitions rather than a 40-ton airplane crashing into it at 500 miles an hour. Another theory is that a plane never even hit the Pentagon and instead it was a missile from within the U.S. government. Conspiracy theorists say the motives of these alleged acts include justifying the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq. The War on Terror. On October 7, 2001, America invaded Afghanistan to hunt down Osama bin Laden and put a stop to terrorism. And finally, after almost a decade, on May 1, 2011, Osama bin Laden was executed.
Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
Many rejoiced at the fact that the mastermind behind one of the most devastating days in American history, killing nearly 3,000 people, was finally gone.
I'm in shock. I can't believe that he's dead, but I'm just so excited to know that the world's a little bit safer.
We finally got Saddam. We've been in this country for a long time, like 7-8 years. Like really, we're not out yet.
This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. I really don't understand politics and all that. You know, I mean, I don't know what he mixed up in, or if he is, but I'm just happy with what's going on right now, what the answer is right now today.
While the war on terror is far from over, America can march into the future knowing that we are strong and united.